Hello, Thrivesters. This is a doozy. I'm coming in very hot today and like super hot, like scorching hot. And let me tell you why. So, first of all, if you're new here, welcome to the Thrive Hive. I'm Nancy Medoff. I'm your host. I realize that I think I have, I don't know, over 100 podcasts, definitely maybe 150, and I've never once introduced myself. So, I'm your host, even though I have the intro. And what we do here, welcome if you're new, we talk about how to thrive in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 20s. Nothing is age exclusive. So everything we talk about, it doesn't matter where you are in your life. The skill and the discipline and the ability to curate a life where you get to thrive every day, you always have to be thinking about it. Doesn't matter how old you are. Doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter where you are in your life. It doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter if you're married or single or 10 kids, no kids. Thriving is a choice. And that's what we talk about here on the Hive. So I literally ran in to record this episode because I was outside and I was doing something that I've never once done. And I just want to give you the play by play on how this went down. So I was doing this thing I've never once done, and I'm going to talk to you about it in a second. And then Danny woke up. I get about probably 2 to 3 hours before he does. He got up and he came downstairs. And usually I want to sit outside with him, get a little vitamin D on my face, have a cup of coffee. We have a beautiful yard, just, enjoy time with him. And I had this yellow legal pad with me, which is my signature method of note taking. And I'm scribbling and scribbling and scribbling. And finally I looked at him and I just said, babe, I got to go inside and record this podcast. I'm feeling it. I got to go inside. He's like, you do you, babe. You do you. And those of you who know him, that's exactly what he says. So I jumped up. I came in here because I was scribbling and I was, I'm going to wait to do it and wait to do it. I'm not waiting. I'm just going to do it. I am not dressed appropriately. I am not ready for prime time, but I'm ready for you, Thrivesters. So here's what I want to talk about today. Now, I promise you that I'm not always going to talk about my garden. I have done a lot of garden analogies lately, and it might just be because that's when I'm most at peace, when I'm weeding or trimming or planting, and that's when I have these thoughts and these analogies. So here's what I want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about this concept of pruning the dead wood from your life. Now, stay with me for a second. For those of you who live in any kind of coastal area or have visited a coastal area, hydrangeas are a thing. For those of you outside the US, we are in over 78 countries. I cannot tell you how rewarding that is for me, that there are people all over the world, Asia, Middle East, Europe, Northern Balkans, that are listening to this podcast. So it also doesn't matter where you live. Your interest and your desire to thrive, it is not geographically driven. So they're called hydrangeas, and they're these beautiful, beautiful flowers. If you don't know what they are, I would suggest you Google them because they're stunning. They're these beautiful flowers, and they can be a little finicky. And a lot of people in New England, they plant them and they care for them, and they're just beautiful. They're these beautiful, welcoming flowers. When you see the photos of the quintessential Cape Cod, which is where I live, that's usually what you see. So anyway, I have these beautiful hydrangeas. They used to be blue. And they're called mophead. They're these big, beautiful flowers, and they surround an area of my deck, and they are stunning, stunning. So what's happened is there's a lot of different advice on how to care for your hydrangeas. And in this case, they didn't really bloom last year. They only bloom once a year, usually late summer. And they bloomed, but they weren't blue. They were like pinkish, brownish. They were still cute, but I want my blue hydrangeas back. I want these beautiful, beautiful hydrangeas back. And so there's a lot of different advice on how to care for them. So as I was following this new piece of advice, I really had this epiphany, and that's what I'm coming and sharing with you. So I want you to substitute my life. I want you to substitute the words my life anytime you hear me say hydrangea. Okay? Because as I was doing what I was doing, which I'm going to talk to you about in a second, every time I say hydrangea, I want you to think to yourself, my life. Ready? Number one, my hydrangeas used to be beautiful and thriving, but now not as much. Okay, so substitute my life for hydrangeas. Number two, my hydrangeas used to bring me so much joy. I feel like something is wrong and I'm not quite sure what. Something is off with my hydrangeas. You're substituting my life, but I'm not sure what. In the past, I've trusted my hydrangeas to come back to me, but they haven't in a while, and I'm upset about that. Next sentence. Everyone wants to give me advice on how to care for my hydrangeas, and it's all confusing and overwhelming. Or a lot of people want to give me advice. And finally, I know my hydrangeas will come back to me or will come back to me. I just don't know how to help them thrive. Okay, so as I was taking this advice from this rando on Instagram, here was the advice. The advice was, so they bloom once a year, and we have, it's called deadwood hydrangeas and newwood hydrangeas. Mine are deadwood, which means there are these stalks shooting out, and they should have flowers, but a lot of them didn't. And this woman on Instagram said, if you still have dead wood, if you still have the dead stalks of your hydrangeas, cut them down. Cut them down now because they're not going to grow. And what's happening is your plant, your hydrangea, my life, is giving energy to the dead wood that's never going to grow. And so the rest of the plant or the rest of the hydrangea, the rest of my life that wants to grow and is set up to grow and is growing and sometimes struggling to grow, it's not getting as much energy as it could be. So I listened to this advice on Instagram and I'm like, no way, you don't mess with the hydrangeas. I'm just going to leave them alone. That's the advice everybody gives me. And then this morning, I'm like, there's a lot of dead wood in there. And what she's saying makes sense. It makes sense that if it hasn't bloomed by now, let's talk about your life. If whatever that dead wood is, and we're going to talk about what that is in a second, but whatever it is that is dead and taking up energy that you don't want to put to that anymore, it's not responding to that energy. It's not responding. And you keep giving it energy and it's not growing. It's not responding. It is not serving you. It is dead wood. If you leave that there, the rest of your life that is like trying to soak up your energy, trying to get as much energy as possible so that it can grow and bloom and be this thriving life that you want it to be, it's not getting enough energy or it's not getting as much energy as it could. Still there, right? So let's talk about the kind of gnarly looking hydrangeas last year. Still growing, but not as much as I knew they could, and not as much as I've seen them before, not as vibrant and thriving and life affirming as they were. So, Thrivesters, I got out the shears, and this is a really big deal because I don't want to mess with the hydrangeas. Think about it. I don't want to mess with my life. My life is good. My life is enough right now. My life is okay. My life brings me a little bit of joy. I know there's something missing. I know I'm missing something with my life. I know my life could be more bold, more bright, more beautiful, more full of life. I know that, but I'm really afraid to take any kind of drastic move. I just don't know what to do. And I'm afraid, not like terrified, but you're afraid. You don't want to rock the boat. Life's been good so far. The hydrangeas are okay. Let's just see how they do. Well, I'm here to tell you, I took the shears and I pruned a lot of dead wood. And as I was pruning it, I was thinking about, I was making this connection to life. And I was thinking, in January, we make all these resolutions. And in January, we say, I'm going to release what's no longer serving me. I say that a lot in January, not so much in March, not so much in June, not so much in September. And if you're on social media, you might be seeing a lot of, there's 6 months left in your life of this year. What did you set out to do that you haven't? What do you think you still could do? I mean, I kind of like that, but in this scenario, I'm looking at it as this is the season. June, for me June is my new year. And I talk about this with a lot of people who are like-minded. June is growth. June is you're outside. June is the sunshine. June is full moons. That to me is the beginning of my life for the year. Plus my birthday's in July. Anyway, so I'm cutting this dead wood and I'm thinking about what's the dead wood in my life. And that's, it could be a not nice term, but I'm just used to it. So it really doesn't offend me, but where am I spending energy in my life? And it's not coming back. This could be friends, former friends. So let's say you have a toxic friend. We all have somebody who's pseudo-toxic in our life. Everybody does. If you don't, then you're not reading the signals. But let's say you have somebody that's a little toxic. And I've talked about this in past episodes. I will link to some of these episodes. If this is really resonating with you, I really do a deep dive on how to deal with toxic people and boundaries and stuff like that. I'll find it. I'll post it. So if you have somebody toxic in your life and that person is getting your energy and you might be great at minimizing the amount of energy. You might have figured that out already. Okay, they're only going to get some access to me. And that's great. If you're not there yet, think about all the energy you spend with that person, thinking about that person, deciding how you're going to handle that person. Again, replaying what you could have said to that person. No, that's energy that could be going towards the people in your life who bring you joy. Why wouldn't you put that energy to something that's good and giving back? It might be a friend group. Maybe you've made some health decisions, and this has happened to me a lot in my life. Maybe you've decided that you want to live a more healthy life. You don't want to go out to 2,000 calorie dinners and 3 bottles of wine, and or, whatever, non-healthy foods, fried foods, whatever it is. Doesn't matter where you live. We all have this. And so you start saying, hey, rather than dinner, would you like to meet for a cup of coffee? Or rather than dinner, would you like to go for a walk? Or rather than dinner, can we catch up on the phone? Whatever the case may be. And those people don't respond to that. What's that about? That's something to unpack. And I actually have someone like that in my life that I don't think they listen to this podcast. They might. They only want to do what they want to do when it comes to hanging out with me. They only want to go to dinner. They only want to have a very unhealthy dinner. Um, they don't want to meet for coffee. They don't want to go for a walk. And I really need to think about, why am I going to derail my health goals? And why am I going to put energy to someone who has drawn a line in the sand? That's their boundary, and that's fine. Good for them. But that's not serving me. That's not good for me. That is putting energy towards a situation, a person, a lifestyle that does not work for me anymore. So how much energy am I giving them? That's something to really, really, really think about. And it's hard. It's hard, Thrivesters, because you like the person, or you want to spend time with the person, or maybe you feel guilt. I do feel guilty sometimes. I am choosing a life where I thrive, and that comes with a lot of intentional decisions, intentional joy. That is my mantra for the summer, intentional joy. And with that comes less energy towards things, people, places, things that do not bring me joy. And in some cases, that's leaving people behind. And that is a reality of taking care of you and taking care of yourself and really being ruthless with what gets your energy. Think about the hydrangeas again, right? So you have the dead wood. It is sucking up energy, and it is dead wood. It is not growing. It is getting in the way. So as I'm cutting these dead branches, now let me tell you how they look now. They're not crowded. Think, okay, so now substitute my life for my hydrangeas. My hydrangeas are not crowded. My hydrangeas have a lot of space to grow. My hydrangeas have a lot of air and areas so that they can breathe and they can sway and they can move. They're not like bunched up together. All of my hydrangeas get access to the sun. So think about that. When you prune the deadwood in your life, what's left has total access to you and your energy. This is like such a massive analogy. I cannot even with this analogy. So why, bringing it back to June and January, why do we only prune the deadwood? Why do we only let go of what's not serving us in January? It doesn't mean that we're great for 6 months and we're like, nope, not getting my energy the rest of the year. We need to check in with ourselves every now and then. So the message that I wanted to bring to you is twofold. One, you got to prune. You have to prune what's getting your energy. So like I said, it could be people, it could be things. It could be a volunteer job that doesn't bring you joy anymore. And again, there's a lot of guilt and shame with that. So I'm here to tell you the guilt and shame, if we're going to have any, which we don't shame, we don't blame in my house. And you all, we don't blame and we don't shame in our community, in the Hive. If you get those feelings, feel guilty about the parts of your life that want your attention, and the parts of your life that are there for you, and the parts of your life that will help you grow. Feel guilty that you're not giving your attention to that, because you're giving your attention to the deadwood because you feel bad. Okay. So first you got to prune. Oh, like I said, so it's people, it could be a job, it could be a volunteer work, it could be a habit that no longer serves you. I mean, think about, I think about this photo of myself. I might get a little emotional right now because I'm going through this right now. There's a picture of me in December. And in December, which is a really hard time to do this, in December, I was very rigorous. I did not drink any alcohol, and I only ate foods that were good for me. I cut out all salt. I cut out a lot of sugar. I only ate natural foods. I mean, this was 30 days of rigorous. And there was a reason, and I look at this picture of myself on New Year's Eve, and I think it was New Year's Eve. And I was glowing. And I'm not talking, I looked thin, I looked great, I looked sexy. I mean, I did look all of those things, obviously. But there was a glow in my skin because I was doing what I knew I needed to. I cut out that dead wood. The salt didn't serve me. The alcohol was no longer serving me. And I cut it out, and I cut it out for a long time. And the minute I let it back in, man, that's when all bets are off. So the number one thing I want to say to you is you got to prune. And you know what it is you have to prune. You do. Then you grow. So you prune and then you grow. And I will tell you, this is why if you are on the fence about hiring any kind of coach, health coach, life coach like me, I don't call myself a life coach, Thrive coach, let's just say, executive coach, anything. If you are a psychotherapist, if you are on the fence about, gosh, should I invest that kind of money in somebody who will help me through this or help me figure this out? Once you prune, if you do not pull the trigger and hire the doctor, the therapist, the coach, whatever it is, to show you how to set up the systems, set up the process, figure out what it is, why you keep going back to these habits. If you don't do that, you're going to keep going back to the deadwood. I did it. I went back to the deadwood, and I'm a coach. So prune and then grow. And in my opinion, the best way for you to grow is to really figure out who can help you. So what I'm trying to get at here is if you are on the fence about a one-on-one coaching engagement with me, I don't do a lot of selling on this podcast. I don't do any advertising on this podcast. I'm here to tell you, as I was cutting the deadwood and the hydrangeas, I was thinking about you. And I was thinking about all of the conversations I've had with friends, with clients, where they just can't figure it out. And then they hire me. And my last client is a great example. My latest client, she was on the fence for like a minute, and then she hired me. And actually my last two clients, the work we have done, one of them completely catapulted her business. I can't even tell you. Completely leveled up. She went from like level 1 to DEFCON 5. I would say 10 times the revenue that she used to have when she continues on with the processes that we set up and the selling that we set up and the packages that we set up. She's going to be unstoppable. You're probably going to read about her in the Wall Street Journal. No joke. That's professional. Personal, the other one, she came to me she knew something was off, and she was like, I just need some help to figure it out. And all we did was talk and get real and identify, okay, where do you want to go and what is getting in the way of that? And that sounds a lot easier than it is. And I will tell you, I have never seen anything like this. Ever. She's just killing it in all areas of her life. I'd love to give you some quotes that she gave me, but I can't remember them, and I don't want to misspeak. But it's with confidence, not arrogance, that I tell you this was a game changer for her, and it will continue to be. It will continue to be. So if you're ready to prune, do the pruning. If you need help figuring out what to prune, great. Talk to me. Talk to a friend. Talk to your partner. You know, your partner probably knows you better than anyone if you have one, or your best friend, or, whoever you trust. And if you don't have anybody that you trust that much, that's another conversation. We got to figure out why. So you prune and then you grow and you open that space and you get rid of what's getting your energy. And I cannot tell you, simply cutting the dead wood out of those hydrangeas, that was a symbol to my system, my brain, my nervous system. That's going to expand. And I am really going to think about what is getting my energy that I don't want to get my energy anymore. And I'm pretty good about it, but there's a few things that are still out there. So with that, I will say, if you want to talk to me about a one-on-one engagement, there's a link in the show notes. Just click on the link and I think it sets up it's a little questionnaire, little like 5 questions, and then it'll set up a time for us to talk. I'm happy to talk to you about whether or not an engagement with me would be a fit. So I will leave you with this. If you want to grow, you have to prune. And the best time to prune is right before growing season. And that's now. That's now. So that's it. That's all I have for you, Thrivesters. Peace out to you, and go out there and thrive like you mean it. That's a wrap, Podsters. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Thrive Hive podcast. Hopefully, after listening today, you're feeling a little more fired up, a little inspired, or maybe a little more like yourself and like the person that you know you're meant to be. And if you love today's episode, take a screenshot, share it on Instagram, tag me. I love to see where and when our Thrive Hive is growing. And if you're thinking about someone who you think should really listen to this episode, send it her way, because we all deserve to go out and live that life we work so hard to build. Now, go thrive like you mean it.